So how concerned should we be with the Pistons blowing leads, and can they fix this issue?
I mean, I feel like it kind of starts and stops with the turnover conversation. The And also it's like I don't know what happens in the third quarters, but a lot of times it's just like giving the ball up down the stretch as well. But against Toronto, the Pistons actually won the turnover battle very narrowly. They turned it over 13 times and Toronto did 14. But even with that, Cade had 4 turnovers. He averages 5 on the season. He's gonna turn the ball over. So it's just like, can you limit the almost careless ones or just ones that happen down the stretch where it's the Pistons are up 7 and you give up the ball, it leads to a 3 on the other end, and then like you're getting into really scary territory really quick. So yeah, I think it just mainly they need to figure out how to turn the ball over less. Like, yes, Cade's a big one in that conversation, but it's not only him too. So overall, I just think if you can take care of the ball and Wes mentioned like the pace and everything, I feel like the Pistons are giving up a lot of their own possessions as well, which is kind of killing them. So if you can find ways to limit that, I think you should be able to protect leads a little better. And it also is a degree of just being such a young team that's learning how to play full games and everything like that. It's looked tough, but hopefully over time and with the new players you brought in, you can kind of get used to it and just build upon like saving the lead like they did in Toronto little by little.
Yeah, to me, I'd say the age thing is where I'd lean with this one as well. Like, I think it's important that we, or at least that I, as a fan, I don't want them to skip steps, right? This is just kind of a step in that process. The Pistons are the fourth youngest team in the NBA, and as a product of that, they have the fourth fewest average number of prior NBA seasons under their belt. So not only are they young, but the young players they have aren't like, 21 and have played in the league for a couple of years. They have some of those guys, but by and large, it's about 3 years of experience on the Pistons roster on average. So like this is going to happen. I know we're going to talk about the turnovers a little bit later too, and Blake kind of previewed that. Young teams turn the ball over, young teams blow leads. And what you want is kind of exactly what we've seen. You want the young team to be in positions to blow leads so that as those leads continue to be blown and as you continue to learn what happened, you're figuring out how to play with that lead. And now maybe in a year, 2 years, now you never lose the lead or you almost never lose that lead. And same thing with the turnovers. Like when a team gets down double digits and they start to get desperate, they turn the temperature up on your ball handlers a little bit. That's happened almost every game, and that's why you've seen when the Pistons get out to those leads, all of a sudden there's a turnover streak. Like, well, they didn't expect it. Of course they didn't expect it. They've never been in that position before, but now they have. And so, you hope for small baby step progressions throughout the year. But, in terms of being concerned with it, I'm not concerned. I think this is just part of growth. You've got a really young team. Not everyone, but so many rookie contracts, so many young players, and the young players that they have spent, 1, 2, 3 seasons being really, really bad, past few years. So, I just think it's part of the process.
To your point, I kind of think it's a blessing in disguise because having like such big leads, like the Hawks game still lives in my head rent free because they were up over 18 points and then the Hawks come back and then they have to close out the game. I think my biggest issue isn't so much turnovers are a big issue of why they are blowing leads. But I think offensively, we've seen when they move the ball and it looks great, but there are possessions where it's just ISO,
especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, bad processing, forcing passes where you probably should just pass the ball to somebody else and not kind of like get tunnel vision or fixated on a certain teammate. And I think over time, they'll learn JB's system. They'll learn to, swing the ball side to side. But I think overall, I've liked what I've seen, but I do get concerned. I think there was I have my notes right here from the Raptors game last night of, not scoring for 10 straight possessions. Like stuff
Yeah.
like that is where I get concerned with, because then it gets stagnant and then you're just not playing team basketball.
No, I think it's a good thing you bring up too, right? I mean, they're not only are they young, but they are still learning this system. This is brand new. And there are times where it looks really good, and then there's a lot of times there in recent fourth quarters where it just turns into, hey, Tobias Harris, go to the elbow and let's see what you can do. That's not going to be productive fourth quarter offense. So, like you said, maybe that's just a product of not necessarily improving as a player, but improving as a player within JB's system. Because it's also important to point out, like we've pointed it out before, that Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, those guys sometimes in those turnover streaks, it's not just Cade, it's them too, and that's weird, right? For veterans to get loose with the ball like that. So I think that's a really good point, Anthony. It's probably system based. They're still learning it.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people want to get on Kate's ass. Is he a point guard? Is he not? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get into those conversations. I mean, I posted a meme about it just for fun. I was just like, some of these Pistons fans, like I had some old man like literally like write me a thesis in all caps of why Kate sucks. I was like, you need to go out, rake your leaves, and leave me alone. Like, get out of here.
Touch grass. Yeah. I mean, when it's the star, I guess there's always going to be those conversations, but I feel like with Cade specifically, it's definitely like he's been incredible this season so far. I mean, against Toronto, he didn't shoot the ball by any means well, but he still had 15 points, 10 assists, and 6 boards, like flirted with a triple double again. So
and a pretty clutch 3 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that was a good thing to see, because after the first like 5 or 6 games, the conversation was Cade needs to find ways to take over down the stretch in the clutch, and like he's shown like that game winner against Atlanta too. Like he's shown the ability to be able to take over. I mean, I definitely knew he could, but it's nice to see as well. But yeah, there were a couple of the Tobias Harris like go and do something possessions against Toronto that I was like, oh my gosh, we need to get away from. I think James Edwards talked about how in Tobias's first stint with the Pistons, like there was a joke that he would score like 15 points in the first quarter and end the game with 18 or whatever it is. So I mean, I hope he can get around it. But yeah, it's nice that the Pistons have other players to go to look and knock down shots, and being able to trust those guys. I mean, sometimes they haven't been able to make a shot in really bad situations, but I think we've seen some improvement there as well, just over the next like 5 or 6 games after that first stretch.
Yeah, it's the Tobias Harris experience. Like he'll score like 11 in like one quarter, and then like you look at the box score and it's like 14 points. You're like, bro, what happened? Like you were cooking. Like what the hell just happened? Like we needed to close out these games, man. And then you look, it's just like 6 for 18 shooting. I was like, what the hell? Like I do remember
He's the weirdest kind of streaky. He's the weirdest kind of streaky, because like you think of streaky, you think of like shooters like Ben Gordon back in the day, where like he'd have one game where he can't miss, and then the next game he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. But Tobias Harris is like, he'll get hot in the first quarter and then he's off. Or vice versa, he'll get hot randomly in the third quarter, even though he's been been not terrible, but like couldn't hit a shot the rest of that game. It's the weirdest like specificity of when he's hot and when he's not. I don't know if I've seen anything quite like it. It's pretty funny.
I can't think of a player or a Pistons player, or even just an NBA player for that matter, that can be hot and then just be ice cold in the same game. Like it is honestly
5 game minutes of each other.
It's wild, but it's bad in Philly if they want him back over Paul George right now. Like that's how bad it is in Philadelphia. Like look, we'll take Tobias Harris. Like we don't like Paul George.
I mean, I know we're giving him a hard time for being streaky, but I think he is actually playing pretty well outside of that shot going in, which is why he gets paid the money. But, in terms of like leadership and getting people in the right spot, I thought he's been really impactful as a rebounder. This year, I think he's been much better as a rebounder than he has been in the past. That's probably helping to feed into that defensive rebounding success. And I mean, he's been a little bit more turnover prone than he has been historically, but I think he's also passing the ball a little bit more. Pistons are asking him to do that. So, I mean, I think overall it's still positive. I just wish he'd make more jump shots. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, like make more corner threes, please. That's all I'm asking
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking
Yeah.
for.